Hear about the new at Freddy's? The new I think it's like a barbecue brisket steak sandwich.
Oh, you're talking about the new barbecue brisket steak burger?
Oh yeah, steak burger.
The barbecue brisket steak burger, the new one?
Barbecue brisket steak burger.
Yeah, it was a
Wait,
barbecue
steak burger.
brisket steak burger.
Barbecue brisket steak burger. Yeah. Four.
At Freddy's.
4 and 1 at Freddy's, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just 2. Barbecue brisket and the steak burger.
Yeah, but
At Freddy's, a new one.
why is it called a steak burger?
It's a barbecue burger. Good afternoon and welcome back to Cosmic Complexity. I'm Grayson.
And I'm Trent.
This is the podcast where we try our very best to understand the ever-expanding universe, and we try to explain it to the best of our abilities, okay? And you know what? Let's be real. This is a podcast about 2 idiots trying to understand random theories. So buckle up, grab a snack. Today we're talking about the zoo theory, which is a very interesting alien theory. So buckle up, keep doing your job, keep doing whatever it is you're doing, and let's get into it. But before we do that, let's get into the comment of the week. Just a little friendly reminder. Leave a comment, okay? Look at our subscriber count, look at our view count, and look at our comment section. What do you see? A whole lot of nothing, okay? So if you're watching this video and you want us to talk about something, comment it below, all right? And maybe consider hitting that subscribe button and that like button. Share this video if you enjoy this episode. But if not, thanks for clicking on and watching a little bit of this podcast so far.
All right, so comment of the week is from at KimchiKin94 Min, and they say Grayson definitely leaves the cart in the parking lot.
I do not. I do not do that. I don't.
He does.
I don't know. Don't say that, dude. You can't say that.
Yeah, my bad.
The amount of Cardinark fans that think I get that. That is the most common comment I've received on my YouTube channel for the last 2 years. Is Grayson leaves his card?
Yeah, on every video.
No, just the Cardinark ones. But good lord, they will not leave me alone, guys.
Yeah,
guys. No, Trent. What do I do when I go to Walmart every time?
Puts the cart up.
And where do I park?
Way the very back.
No, help me out. Park by the corral. I park by the corral.
Oh yeah, okay.
I always park by the corral.
Typically, he'll park by the corral if
it's available.
If it's available, yeah. But if not, well, I don't know. I just always park at the very back whenever I go to Walmart. I just thought you did the same thing.
No, I don't.
But
time?
The parking lot at that Walmart is so confusing. So it's not confusing. It's just so inconvenient to get out of. So I just always park at the very back.
That's fair. One time I went to Walmart and I was trying to park next to the corral, and I have a long bed pickup, and I fully hit the corral with my truck. It launched the corral 2 feet, and I was like, oh, because it's not heavy. They're not heavy. They're just poles, basically. Yeah. But it
it's enough to launch it.
It launched it 2 feet. And I got so scared because there were other cars around the corral.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, did I just hit someone else's car? I didn't. We're good. Thankfully, we're good. I did not do that. But no, I don't leave my card out. Trent, do you think it's good to leave your card out?
No, dude. Put it up. But don't be a narc about it.
Don't be a narc about it, but just also put up your card.
You never know what somebody's going through, dude. You know what I mean? What if it was what if it was somebody who was trying to escape from being mugged and they just didn't have time to put their card up and they're trying to, or what if they had an emergency? You never know.
Or what if
you never know.
What if their second cousin's uncle died and they were just at the funeral and they're kind of in a low energy moment and they didn't put the card up, and because they're depressed and they just weren't thinking, You
never know what's going on in somebody's life.
You never know who lost their second cousin's uncle.
Exactly.
So
yeah, we're here at Cosmic, and I guess content. We're against Cardinark.
Content Studios,
right? Are we?
Studios. It's Content Studios.
Here at Content Studios. We're. I mean, is it okay to say that we're against Cardinark here?
Yeah.
Okay, we're against Cardinark
here
at Content Studios. We don't agree with Cardinark here.
Here at Content Studios, we think Cardinark is a bitch ass hoe.
Well,
Trent's words verbatim. That's what Trent said.
No, nobody heard me say that.
Yeah, you literally said that before we turned the. You also said something else.
Whoa, dude! I didn't say that. You said that. Stop trying to put words in my mouth.
It was a really funny joke that we can't repeat on the podcast.
It wasn't that bad of a joke. It was a funny joke.
I think it was funny, but it was also like.
You have to have the context.
Yeah.
For it to be funny.
It was funny. It was funny, but. Artemis, what are you doing, dude? Hi. Welcome. You were here early in the episode. People might actually. I don't think they've seen Gara. They saw Gara in his cone era.
Pretty sure they saw Ranger too.
Ranger, Gara have been seen. Now Artemis. Look at that. Artemis, you've made an appearance on Cosmic Complexity. Good for you. She's usually just sleeping on the bed in the back. So, all right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get into the episode topic. Right. Sorry, we had a little bit of a rough start here at Cosmic Complexity. It's been a long week. Also, sorry for the late episode. I'll explain that later. But do you want to read it first? Do you want me to read it?
I can go first.
All right, you go for it, Trent. What is the zoo theory?
So we're talking about the zoo theory. We found a little article on it. So this says the zoo hypothesis speculates that on the assumed behavior and existence of technological advanced extraterrestrial life and the reasons they refrain from contacting Earth. It may be theoretical explanations for the Fermi paradox, which we'll get into later. The hypothesis states that essentially life intentionally avoids communication with Earth and allows for natural evolution and socio-cultural development, and avoiding interplanetary communication, similar to people observing animals at a zoo. The hypothesis seeks to explain the apparent absence of extraterrestrial life, despite its generally accepted possibility, and hence the reasonable expectation of its existence.
So the idea is that it's kind of similar to our patented racist alien theory.
Yeah.
Except instead of them just being blatantly racist,
it's just less racist.
It's a racist alien theory without the racism.
Yeah.
Whenever we get that Wikipedia up, because we did write a Wikipedia, we're waiting for its approval. We need to do an episode on that.
On the racist
alien theory.
Use our own Wikipedia article.
Yeah. If you don't know about the racist alien theory, we talked about it last episode. But I don't think this is necessarily a unrealistic theory.
No, I mean,
like the idea that aliens intentionally are avoiding us, but it's more so to observe us and just watch us destroy ourselves.
Well, it's like, okay, I was watching a Star Trek clip the other day.
No, nice.
And basically they, in Star Trek they have all these fancy new technologies where they can just materialize anything they want.
Yeah.
In an instant, Yeah. And so somebody was making the argument well, why don't you just go bring that to some impoverished country so they can have food? And it's well, if you give that sort of technology to one person or just trust that they'll use it with good intent, they may not. It may make things even worse because then this person has all this power and the weaker people don't, So I feel like aliens could be in that way saying, okay, we don't want to drop all this crazy technology on these people or even drop the existence of aliens on these people because it would just make things worse,
Yeah, we would definitely abuse that very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not a good kind of being.
We're kind of trash beings.
Yeah, I feel like we're trings for sure.
Yeah, we're trings.
We're definitely trings on this planet, but that doesn't mean that we deserve to be called trings, okay? Not all of us are trings.
Right.
Just some of us.
Just on average.
Yeah. The average string is not a good person.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty valid theory.
All right, let's go to detail. What else do we got here about this thing?
So extraterrestrial life forms might, for example, choose to allow contact once the human species has passed certain technological, political, and or ethical standards. So that's kind of what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, they may withhold contact until humans force contact upon them, possibly sending a spacecraft to an extraterrestrial inhabited planet. In this regard, reluctance to initiate contact could reflect a sensible desire to minimize risk. An extraterrestrial society with advanced remote sensing technologies may conclude that direct contact with neighbors confers added risks to itself without an added benefit. A variant on the zoo hypothesis suggested by former MIT Haystack Observatory scientist John Allen Ball is in the laboratory hypothesis in which humanity is being subjected to experiments with Earth serving as a giant laboratory. Ball describes this hypothesis as a morbid and grotesque, simultaneously overlooking the possibility that such experiments may be altruistic, i.e., designed to accelerate the pace of civilization to overcome a tendency for intelligent life to destroy itself.
You think that's true?
Until a species is sufficiently developed to establish contact.
You think that's true?
So we're just basically lab rats, and the Earth is a giant cage?
So it's kind of like a weird hybrid of the simulation idea, like we all live in a simulation. That was three cuckoos.
Nice.
Wow.
That means
we got a
3 o'clock.
We got a cuckoo clock today.
Yep.
And it's got a great name. I named it. Can't say its name here. It's a really good name though. But so it's kind of like the simulation theory where everything is already kind of pre-planned, like a laboratory kind of standard. I don't know if I agree with that aspect of it. I think the idea that maybe aliens are intentionally avoiding us is, that's just like our theory that we coined.
Yeah.
It's just the
just a
reason,
variant on our theory.
We came up with the theory first before these people. So that's for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think that the idea that like I said here, they may choose to allow contact once human species have passed certain points,
right?
Like checkpoints, technologically or societally.
That kind of point too, like we've had contact though.
Yeah.
Like not like okay, maybe the definition of contact is important. Like okay, maybe it's we haven't interacted like face to face,
right?
Or like talked to these creatures, or they don't like come here.
Do you
consistently.
think world leaders have though?
I think so.
So you think that means that we've somehow reached a point of where they're willing to commune with us now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that and that might be why we kind of starting to see more and more of a common interaction with these aliens and these UAPs and all of these sorts of things, that we're actually getting more and more closer to that level of technology, theoretically.
Yeah.
Maybe. But at the same time, we have paintings of UFOs, where it's okay, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why? There's very, 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 very old paintings, hundreds of thousands of years old, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of years old, where there's an alien spaceship or weird indications of that or hieroglyphics of that, where it's okay, something weird happened here.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, what maybe they came to check and see where we're at, but I don't know. I don't know how
there's the whole thing with the pyramids. I mean, I've never really been a big believer in aliens built the pyramids, but I mean that is that's something that could be talked about. If they did build the pyramids, then how does that fit into the zoo theory?
And also why?
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Why would they build the pyramids?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm kind of there. What's also really interesting is I think somebody mapped it out, and the pyramids are all located at certain points in the globe.
Yeah, specific points. I think they line up with some constellation or something.
Yeah, which maybe that it's it was a way of communicating with aliens in the ancient time. I don't know. We'll probably get into that at some point in more detail, but currently I don't really have enough evidence or information about it to be yes or no on that. I think that historically Egyptian slaves were the ones who built it, and I think that it is a little degrading to act like they didn't achieve that, and of course they didn't want to. I'm sure they were enslaved and forced and probably treated horribly to do so. But Egyptian slaves were very poorly treated, and so I do think that it's kind of hard for me to be like, oh yeah, aliens built a pyramid, when it's like, or maybe it was these slaves who were forced to do this horrible labor, and it's kind of demeaning and takes away from the little bit of glory that they had, where they were able to achieve something.
We're always like, oh, there's no way they could have had the technology to move, like, several ton stones like that, but they had ways of doing things.
They did.
That. Like they had ways of moving massive amounts of stone, and like I remember seeing something about this guy who had described one of the techniques that they used to move stone like that. So it's not like they didn't have the technology or have the ability to do that,
Yeah, it's just, to me it feels like you're kind of taking away from the ability that those Egyptian slaves had, which maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm mixing up dates, but I do think that was more than likely what happened than aliens, but we can get into that in a different episode.
Anyways, going on, the zoo hypothesis assumes first that whatever the conditions are such that life can exist and evolve, whatever conditions exist such that life can evolve, it will. And secondly, there are many places where life can exist and a large number of extraterrestrial cultures in existence. It also assumes that these extraterrestrials have great reverence for independent natural evolution and development. In particular, assuming that intelligence is a physical process that acts to maximize the diversity of a system's accessible futures. A fundamental motivation for the zoo hypothesis would be that premature contact would unintelligibly reduce the overall diversity of paths the universe itself could take. Okay, so it essentially, if you tamper with it, it could mess up or hinder that specific culture from doing greater things in the future, maybe. So, like, if you reveal to them this great technology that you have, it would maybe stunt them in their ability to do greater things in the future.
Right.
So,
interesting.
That kind of bases it around like evolution, like, it's almost like they have a reverence for the natural order of like, you shouldn't mess with the natural order of things. Maybe.
I mean, that's not unfair. That makes sense. Like, they wouldn't just drop technology or the understanding of technology, which, I mean, from what we've seen of UAPs, they're incredibly advanced technology-wise that we wouldn't be able to even comprehend it, which we still can't. I think like there was one that it's the speed that it moved at was like, what's the amount? Is it like Mach 2 or 3 that jets can move at? Is it Mach?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mach, yeah.
I think there was like a UAP that was measured at like Mach 200 or 300.
Jeez.
It was incredibly fast, and it was like, that would kill humans. But here's another idea. I know this is completely unrelated. I just thought of it right now. What if UAPs are time travelers? And that's why they're moving so fast, because they're like traveling through time and speed and physics and science and math and engineering.
Physically, mathematically, it's impossible to go back in time. It is.
No, it's not. Dude.
It is, yeah.
No, it's not.
It's impossible to, like, because everything is increasing, everything is growing, and so it's impossible to like contain that and go back in time. For instance, if you like if you melt a piece of ice, it's impossible for it to go back into that exact same state that it was, right? But we do know it is mathematically proven and physically proven that you can go forwards in time, because time is relative, and like depending on the rate at which you're traveling would affect the way you perceive time.
What's hard for me is like, that's based on what we know about time too. Like time, okay, how do we measure time? We measure time by the sun moving up and down, and we also measure time by a calendar that we've had, right? These are things that we've made up, and the same thing with math. But what if we don't fully comprehend how time works? Like, what if we don't know we just assume we know. And maybe one of these days we'll get an Einstein who actually takes the time to readjust time and how we understand it, and then we figure it out, you know? Like take Newton.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who figured out gravity, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Before him, they understood how gravity worked, but they didn't understand it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And it took him going, apple hit head, which I don't think that's a true story. I don't think the apple actually hit his head, but I do think he probably started to work on it and figure it out and was like, you know, how does this actually work? It took him looking at what they thought they understood. Because before Newton,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure they were like, yeah, we understand it. You know, before time on the calendar, they were like, yeah, we understand time. Sun go up, sun go down. It's just like as we progress, I think it's silly to not calling you silly, but I do think it's silly to like just assume we know exactly how something works.
Yeah.
When there's still opportunity for someone in the future to actually look into it a little bit differently and look at it a different perspective. It just takes the right person.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
No, not really. Not really.
No.
You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm getting at?
No, I know what you mean. But it is like a mathematical thing. And it has to do with like, I think it's called enthalpy. In what's it called?
Empath?
No.
Impossible?
What is that called?
Impeccable. Improbable. Impactful. Promedical. Enthalpy? Enthalpy.
What is that called?
Enthalpy. I don't know what Trent's talking about, guys. I'm just trying to fill in the empty space while he Googles something, but he's having some hard times here to figure out what the word is. He's currently Googling mathematical word, which is a horrible way to try to find the right word by just Googling mathematical words. Trent's a silly guy sometimes, you know. Sometimes I genuinely wonder how Trent has made it this far in life because he doesn't know how to back up a trailer, which
I don't.
Is the telling point of whether or not you can make it in life. Is if you made it to the year of life where you're like 21, 22 and you still don't know how to back up a trailer, you might as well just end it all there and commit toaster bath. So,
are you talking about the S word?
Yes, the S word. But I don't know. I think we've based math and everything off like the little knowledge we've able to come up with ourselves. But like, what if there's an entity or a being that's smarter than us and they figured it out? And what if they've been traveling through time? You know?
Yeah.
It's gotta be done. There's gotta be a way to do it. There's just gotta.
I think it's gonna bother me.
Even on a spiritual level, Trent, I'm talking about our
entropy.
faith.
Entropy. That's what it is.
I said that.
You said entropy?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
I didn't. I didn't say. Even on a spiritual level, the concept of time to God is like nothing. It's not even existent.
I mean, I do think that obviously God can do whatever the heck he wants with time, right? Because he's outside of it.
He's technically a time traveler.
Hmm.
You're telling me Jesus isn't a time traveler? If Jesus is to return and he knows all, and he is the Father, the Son, and we're going to get into a little bit of a Christian brain jumble here. Jesus is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, right? At least according to our, what are we, more Calvinistic?
More
Protestant.
I mean, yeah, but Catholics also from the Trinity, so.
Yeah, so like the Calvin, we'll say Protestant. We'll stick with Protestant. The Protestant perspective, Jesus is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Well,
one.
God is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Jesus is the Son.
And Jesus is a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Holy Spirit, God, Jesus, they're all one Holy Trinity, which Jesus, when he walked on earth, claimed to be God.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's the case, when Jesus was walking earth for 33 years, 2,000 years ago, and when Jesus is walking the earth in X amount of years, he is aware then and now what will happen, and how it will happen, and where it will happen, and when it will happen. So he time traveled.
Yeah, I mean, I think
kind of.
I think
consciously
knowing past, present, and future doesn't necessarily mean that he travels to past,
But do you
present,
think
and future.
if time is outside of him, he's present during both of those times?
Yeah.
So he would be time traveling.
But so you're saying that God is still in the past right now?
Yeah.
God
He'd
still
have to be.
exists in the past?
He'd have to be in the past and the future and the present. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? If God is outside,
I'm trying to think of the implications of this.
What I'm saying is, if God is outside of time, the God that is speaking to Moses in the burning bush, and the God who is speaking to you now through the Holy Spirit, is simultaneously speaking to you and Moses at the same time, theoretically.
Yeah.
Because he's outside of time. Time is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make God technically a time traveler? But that's not mathematically correct,
I guess
is it, Trent?
Well, God is outside of mathematics too. You know, like God created math.
Just trying to burn down your opinions.
But
that's the whole point
anyways,
of the complexity.
Basically, entropy is like
you're interrupting me. No, I'm just kidding. You keep talking.
Entropy is like if you roll. I literally learned this in class like 3 days ago.
Yeah, I figured
3-4 days ago.
Let's hear it.
Like if you roll some dice.
Okay.
Like if you roll 2 6-sided dice. The amount of entropy is basically just the amount of like random chance there is.
Okay.
So like if you had 2 dice, the average roll of dice, there's like an equation to get it. But if you have 2 6-sided dice, the average roll would be oh shoot, now I forgot. I think it may be 8. I think the average roll may be 8, but there's an equation. I think it's like 3.5 times 2.
He's got it, guys. He's got it down.
I think it's 7 actually. The average 2 6-sided dice, the average roll is 7.
Okay.
But since you just have 2 6-sided dice, the chance of getting like rolling the average is lower. But if you had like the more dice you get, so like if you had like 50 dice,
right,
the chance of rolling the average of 50 dice, whatever number that adds up to, the average, the chance of rolling the average is a lot greater. And so essentially that's what entropy is.
Wouldn't the average be 3,500?
I don't know. What?
50 times 7, right?
So basically what you do is
Alexa,
I think you multiply.
Alexa, what's 50 times 7? Wow.
That's not how you do it, though.
I definitely did 500 times 7. Added an extra 0.
You did add an extra 0. But it's like you multiply the number of dice by the distance between, or the midpoint between 1 and 6, since it's a 6-sided dice. So it'd be 50 times 3.5.
Okay. 3.
And that would be the average.
Yeah, I can do that in my head right now. So it's going to be 50 times 3.5 is going to be... Alexa, what's 50 times 3.5? 175. That's what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I had in my head.
So the average would be 175. And the odds of rolling the average are greater whenever you increase the number of dice.
So where are you good?
So basically, that means that the universe is the entropy of the universe is always increasing, and you can't decrease. Entropy can only go up; it can't go down.
Okay.
Mathematically. And since entropy the entire universe it is increasing in entropy, right? It's increasing in randomness and in order, right? Every time a baby's born, every time dead skin falls off your arm, right? It's changing. It can't revert back, right? Like it can't go down. Entropy can only go up. So basically that means that you can't travel back in time. But you can travel forwards in time faster.
I don't know, Avengers Endgame proved that wrong, though.
You're right. Avengers Endgame.
Tony Stark figured it out.
Tony Stark did figure it out, yeah.
He invented a new element. So
He did, yeah. He did invent a new element.
So
you're
we
right.
we need someone like Tony Stark to show up and invent
Like
a
Elon
new
Musk.
Elon Musk.
No, I'm just kidding.
Elon Musk or Jeremy
Elon Musk.
or Mark Zuckerberg need to figure out how to
Or Katy Perry.
or Katy Perry. Yeah. Katy Perry needs to invent an element.
Yep.
That's what we. Okay. What's next? What's the next section, Trent?
Let's move on from this.
Sorry for that little bit of a derailing there, guys. Don't worry
yeah,
about it.
that went off the rails.
No, it didn't. It was a good point, Trent.
Thank you. All right. So moving on. These ideas are perhaps most plausible if there is a relatively universal cultural or legal policy among a plurality of the extraterrestrial civilizations necessitating isolation with respect to civilizations at Earth-like stages of development.
Okay.
In a universe without hegemonic power, random single civilizations with independent principles would make contact. This makes a crowded universe with clearly defined rules seem more plausible. So basically it's saying that the aliens have some sort of a contract, like a code amongst each other to not interact with Earth-like
I mean,
planets.
That's not a far-fetched. I mean, that's kind of like going into like a Star Wars kind of like universe or world. But at the same time, I do think that would kind of put more of an understanding to like how we see multiple different types of like UAPs.
Yeah.
There's like egg-shaped ones.
Well,
there's like the Black Knight.
And then the other question is, are aliens in their nature, are they distinct from humans, or do they have a similar nature to humans? Like, do they have like experience, greed and experience like wanting to get self-gain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, because like you mentioned Star Wars, like in Star Wars, the aliens, there's like a variety of different aliens. They have a variety of different morals and like standards of living, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So if the aliens have this code, what happens if an alien breaks that code? Do they get punished?
Yeah.
It's like,
I think they turn to the dark side and probably get a red lightsaber.
dude.
So
yeah.
But again, that happened a long time ago too. So who knows what it's like?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
In a galaxy.
Yeah, far, far away. So.
Far, far away. Yeah, but
that's a good point. How did they have the English language in a galaxy far, far away?
Yeah, and how are they all
in a
British?
galaxy far, far away. Yeah.
Something didn't add up. Something didn't
British
add up.
Empire must have got to him.
Yeah, the Brits. They've been around for a while.
Friggin' Brits.
Those Brits did. next section.
It's derailing.
Derail.
All right. If there is a plurality of extraterrestrial creatures, however, this theory may break down under the uniformity of motive concept because it would take just a single extraterrestrial civilization or simply a small group within any given civilization to decide to act contrary to the imperative within human range of direction for it to be undone, and the probability of such a violation of hegemony increases with the number of civilizations. So basically what we just said, like, what's to stop a group of aliens from breaking that code, Which
maybe that's why we see UAPs. Maybe they are breaking the code.
Yeah. Maybe there is some sort of an agreement or an alliance. And they're like, you know what?
Fuck that alliance.
Yeah.
Fuck that alliance
We're gonna go drop some technological bombs on these humans, these trashlings.
That would give a reason for like alien encounters being so rare. Like people getting abducted or, probed.
Right. Now, do you think...
What if that's like aliens acting out?
Do you think that if this is true and there's some sort of a code contract thing and a group of aliens broke it and they're interacting with us, do you think their intentions are good or bad?
Bad. That's why they probe us.
Well, wait, what makes you think they're bad? What else makes you think they're bad?
They abduct us and torture us and scare the shit out of everyone.
How do you know, though?
All of the abduction stories that are told are not good.
Have you heard... Now, this may not be aliens, but have you heard the one about that boy that went missing? We can talk about it next time, or I can pull it up or something.
Dude, yeah, we really need to get into abduction stories. We really have.
That would be cool.
We have never gotten into that.
But basically, there's this little, like, 8-year-old boy, or maybe even younger, who went missing in the woods. Like he was on a trip with his family in some national park, and he straight up went missing. Yeah, like just gone. Couldn't find him. And
terrifying, dude.
he was gone, I think, for like 48 hours. And they found him like 3 miles across some like rocky, mountainous terrain, just like in the middle of the like forest or something.
Weird.
And they found him there. And basically they got a group of people together after they found him to be like, okay, let's figure out how this kid could have gotten over there.
Yeah.
And they tried to like trace like all the possible routes they could have taken, and like they couldn't even get halfway in 48 hours to where that kid was found. So it's
weird.
like something must have picked him up and taken him over there. You know what I mean?
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
The pictures of him, like you can tell that.
Oh, actually, I think I might have heard about this. Yeah, the pictures where he like looked really bad. Like he looked like he had aged.
Yeah.
A lot.
And it was from trauma, basically, like from a traumatizing thing.
Sure.
Like
even if he wasn't abducted, being like
lost
separated from your parents
yeah.
for 48 hours in the middle of nowhere, animals, bugs,
yeah,
rain.
He like had the same look as like soldiers coming back from Vietnam, like kind of just that traumatized, just shell shock.
Yeah. Blah, blah.
So
no sir.
But anyways, like that. Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Aliens. Oh yeah, like maybe they are here to
abduct us.
Abduct us. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, dude. They just want to rape us.
But why would the government be like working with them though? Or why would they slowly be releasing this stuff now? You know what I mean?
Well, the government just wants to rape us.
I guess so.
In one way or the other.
Donald Trump. Like,
careful. Careful. Pause. Next section.
All right.
Welcome to Cosmic Complexity. If this is your first episode, we apologize.
Sorry.
Trent's made worse comments. I'm just gonna say,
hey, dude.
Remember when you said the S word fully? Just that episode performed really poorly. Just telling you now, that episode did not do well.
My bad. I was supposed to say toaster bath, but I said the other word. I didn't know, dude. I didn't know.
Right out with it.
I didn't know.
I didn't even edit it out. I forgot to, and I went back, listened to the episode. I was like, oh well.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're still small.
Sorry about that. We're still small, yeah.
Who cares at this point anymore? Who cares about this channel?
Continuing on. In this hypothesis, the problem of universal ethical homogeneity is solved because the acquisition of a persistent advanced level of civilization requires overcoming many problems such as self-destruction or overpopulation, pollution, and scarcity. So managing to solve these problems could guide a civilization to adopt responsible and wise behavior, otherwise they would disappear, involving other solutions to the Fermi paradox, which we'll get into here in a minute. In the zoo hypothesis, no contact will be possible until humanity acquired a certain level of civilization and maturity. So otherwise it would become a potential threat.
I just don't understand why it's called a zoo paradox. Like, I thought it was going to be more so like they're just observing us, like we're animals in a cage, and that's it. Like, we're entertaining to them.
Right.
But it's more so like they're observing us, but they're waiting until we are better. That doesn't feel like a zoo. Like, a zoo is like we put a gorilla in a cage and we stare at it until it dies.
Yeah, right.
We don't wait for the gorilla to evolve and get out of the zoo.
Unless it's Planet of the Apes.
Yes. Then I guess maybe that's where the zoo paradox comes in. No! But I don't know.
But also from a you know, taking it back a little bit, from a Christian worldview, do we believe that a society could ever reach that sort of level that it talked about of like no war, no overpopulation, no pollution, like essentially what they described an alien society would be like?
But you remember when we got into that when we got into that debate to an extent about whether or not there could be aliens in the same blanket of Christianity as a faith.
Yeah.
The thing that we kept running into is like, okay, would sin exist? And would they understand that there is like a repentance to that sin? Or would they, because that's how long the conversation went, we kind of got into that layer. If sin didn't exist for aliens, then yes, I could say, yeah, they could go to that point where there's no war and there's peace and they're just there could just be beings, you know? We don't see cat wars. Which, I mean, they fight each other, sure, but like...
It's not like out of malice.
No, it's usually just out of like mating. You know, they just want to mate with the other cat. And but I don't know. We could ask our cat correspondent, Gara, but he's asleep right now, so we're going to leave him alone.
Yeah.
Artemis showed up earlier.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Fermi paradox. This paradox was mentioned twice, I think, during the article, just about the zoo hypothesis or whatever it was called. So let's see what this is. The Fermi paradox is a modified zoo hypothesis is a possible solution to the a modified zoo hypothesis is a possible solution to the Fermi paradox. The time between the emergence of the first civilization within the Milky Way and all subsequent civilizations could be enormous. Monte Carlo simulation shows the first inter-arrival times between emergent civilizations would be similar in length to geologic epochs on Earth. The zoo hypothesis assumes a civilization may have 10 million, 100 million, half a billion year head start on humanity, i.e., it may have the capability to completely negate our best attempts to detect it. Okay. So, like, the zoo hypothesis is assuming that the aliens are 100 million, half billion years, 10 million years ahead of us in civilization. Which, listen, can I be honest with you? Whenever scientists or archaeologists or people dealing with like prehistoric dinosaurs pull up something and they're like, this is 10 million years old. It's like, how? How do we know that? How do we know this is really that old? Are you serious? Like, we don't even know what that would look like. We don't even know what something that is 1 million years old would look like. Maybe we do. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but like, what is the indication of that? Other than just being like,
it has something to do with like the carbon cells, but like you said, how do we know that that is accurate? And like that, like, what if it was some sort of like rapid aging that happened to it that made it look like it was that old somehow? But it has something to do with the carbon, like it's called carbon dating. But
I mean, that goes back into kind of like the time thing, where like, you know, you said you can't go back and forward into time, but. I've talked to you about this. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast. Maybe I have briefly. But like when Jesus cursed the fig tree and it died, it aged very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
Like it went from a fully grown tree to a dead tree overnight.
Yeah.
And it was like completely dead. That kind of aging and dying of a tree like that doesn't happen overnight. You don't just have a tree, a fully grown olive tree, die. So that shows like Jesus actively aged something quickly, which to me kind of defeats the whole age tells us something. A tree, that tree, if you cut it in the rings and you counted the rings of the tree, would it say 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, or would it say 15 years, however old the tree was? I don't know. Either way, it'd be really confusing because it died overnight.
Right.
I don't know.
In like a rapid process.
Yes.
Yeah. Not a natural. Yeah. Like and also like God could have created the earth in an aged state. Of
yes. Which who knows?
Yeah.
Really. But also, you know, Adam and Eve was a story that Moses wrote. So Adam and Eve could be more of a representation, a biblical indication, and a story that was given to him by God to... We don't have to get into that. That's too much. Well, listen, if you want to hear more about that idea of Adam and Eve, we can get into it later. The zoo hypothesis relies in part on applying the concept of hegemonic power to the Fermi paradox. Even if the first hegemonic, non-interventionalist grand civilization, first civilization, is long gone, their initial legacy could persist in the form of a passed-down tradition or perhaps an artificial life form. Artificial superintelligence. I did not think we were going to get there with this.
Yeah.
Dedicated to non-interventionalist hegemonic goal without a risk of death. Thus, the hegemonic power does not even have to be the first civilization, but simply the first spread its non-interventionalist doctrine and control over a large volume of the galaxy. If just one civilization acquired hegemony in a distant past, it could form an unbroken chain of taboo against rapacious colonization in favor of non-interface in any civilization that follow. The uniformity of motive concept previously mentioned would become moot in such a situation. The main problem would be how a galaxy-wide civilization would block Earth from receiving all intentional or unintentional communications. Nonetheless, if the oldest civilization still present in the Milky Way was, for an example, a 100 million year time advantage over the next oldest civilization, then it is conceivable that they could be in a singular position of being able to control, monitor, influence, or isolate the emergence of every civilization that follows within their sphere of influence. This is an analogous to what happens on Earth within our civilization on a daily basis, and that everyone born on this planet is born into a pre-existing system of familiar associations, customs, traditions, and laws that were already long established before our birth, in which we have little or no control over. So, like,
interesting.
Here's one thing that kind of comes to mind whenever after that section of like super intelligence.
Yeah.
Especially the question of like, okay, well, if that's the case, how is Earth controlled? How is our section in a way where people can't travel here that are extraterrestrials?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's like a sector. Like maybe Earth's sector is under control of a certain alien species and is feared by other aliens. And they'd be like, no, we're not gonna even touch that sector because we understand that this area, this solar system, say our Milky Way, is inaccessible because it is protected to a certain extent. There's also like been messages sent to Earth from outer space that we don't understand that are electronic. We recognize they're electronic. We don't know what they mean. We can't understand it. We don't know what it is. It's kind of terrifying to think about.
Yeah.
But consistently, we get a radio signal from space. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it comes from. What if that's like a rebellion going into Star Wars here?
Right.
Trying to contact us, trying to get access to us so that they can get through to us and help us break out of this.
Right.
You know?
And that's another kind of morality question of like, should we be like, do we have the right to know like the greater things of the universe, or simply because we're human and like less developed, like we don't have the right to know those things?
How bullshit
and maybe
would that
aliens
be?
argue about that.
Can you imagine if we finally got to space and started traveling, we get to the edge of our sector, and then we get like pulled up onto by like a giant alien species?
It'd be crazy.
And they're like, go back. And we're like, what?
Yeah. Like,
wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Essentially like our babysitters practically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're or like we're like a government.
I can tell you what we would do.
Nothing.
We
couldn't do anything.
Americans have already dealt with those kind of tyrants back in 1776. No, I'm just kidding.
The astronauts on the space station claim to have heard knocking outside of their spaceship.
That's freaking terrifying, dude.
And they just didn't. They couldn't see anything out the window, but they heard knocking, and they're like, something's knocking outside. Isn't that crazy?
That's terrifying. If I was in space and I heard knocking on the outside of the...
And they couldn't tell if they were just going crazy, which I don't think they were. I think something was knocking. Maybe it was...
What was it, though? And
maybe
why
it
was it knocking?
Rocks, like just random space rocks hitting the exterior of the shuttle. Or maybe something was out there knocking. Like, terrifying concept. But, okay, so on that whole understanding of like, okay, there's... maybe we're governed. Maybe there's a government above us. Okay.
Yeah.
There's something called the METI. Have you heard about this, Trent?
I have not.
The Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So, overcoming the zoo hypothesis is one of the goals of METI, an organization created in 2015 to communicate with extraterrestrials. An active form of the search for extraterrestrials, SETI. METI, however, has been criticized for not representing humanity's collective will and for potentially endangering humanity. So I tried to go into a little bit about how METI, like their messages and what they sent out. But honestly, it was a lot of just radio jumble. It wasn't really worth talking about too much. But I do think it's funny that it's just a group of people that started in 2015. They're just sending messages out to aliens, and everyone's like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. That's dangerous.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because like, you know, if there's nobody out there listening, fine, whatever, do whatever the heck you want.
But if
somebody's out there listening, They're essentially representing humanity.
Yes, and they're just sending out who knows what out of our control.
That is interesting.
Terrifying.
Maybe that's why, dude, maybe that's why aliens think we're trashlings, because of these...
Trings.
Yeah, trings. My bad.
Trashlings.
You
gotta use that slur correctly.
Trings, yeah.
Trings. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so... I think that is a terrifying idea. Like, that we... Especially, how would we know? Because we've never gone that far out into space.
Yeah.
Really? How far have we gotten? The moon? We've never exceeded that.
Humans, I think.
And if it's like what I'm saying, like a sector, and eventually maybe we'll be evolved enough to where we can actually get out there past space.
Yeah.
That's kind of terrifying.
Well, I wonder if at that point, if those aliens mean well, if they'll sort of like show us the greater mysteries of the universe, or if
maybe
they'll just be like, get back in your,
so it's like a
Milky Way.
50-50 chance that either we get out there and they're like, oh, finally they've made it to where they can travel, or they're like, you should not have traveled here. And it's like, oh shit. But what if that's why the government stopped traveling to space? What if they got to the moon and they like discovered like something that they haven't shared with us, and they were like, we should stay on Earth, and that's why it's taken 2 idiot billionaires to try to get back to space.
Maybe. Maybe, yeah. Like they're trying to stay away from something. Yeah.
Because it's not just Earth, it's not just the U.S. government that has like ceased going anywhere besides the moon.
Right.
It's not a race anymore. Why aren't we racing? What happened?
Yeah.
What stopped us from going to the moon?
Yeah.
What if there is something on the moon where we met an alien species and they were like, turn around? We said, full. Yeah. It's a possibility. It's not impossible.
Do you think the alien species was telling us to turn around because it was like a threat, or you think it was like, it's not safe out here, y'all get back?
I don't know. Could be both. Yeah. One or the other, really. Could be. Comment down below, what do you guys think of this theory?
It's fascinating. Like,
it's fascinating. That's kind of...
Yeah, there's like, aliens that know we exist, but they're intentionally not
talking to us.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think the racist alien theory is more accurate.
Yeah, I mean, well, because the racist alien theory kind of encapsulates all of this, you know what I mean? It just adds another layer onto it.
Yeah, it does, because it really just explains more, It's like, no, not only are they trying to protect us, but they also just hate us and are racist.
Yeah. They're racist to us right now, and they're hoping that we'll get better, and then they'll maybe.
Yeah. Which, that's racist on its own.
Exactly.
Imagine looking at this species and being like, I hope they get better.
Yeah. Very racist.
Racist alien theory. We're still working on it. Nobody write a Wikipedia about it. We have a extensive written Wikipedia. We spent hours on it.
Yeah.
So
hours.
All right. Well, as we're getting here towards the end of the episode, I'll go ahead and just update you guys. This episode was a week late. That's my fault. We were going to shoot it last Sunday, as we usually have been, and on my way home from I was in like the Dallas area, I hit a raccoon in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, and it destroyed my radiator in my car, and I had to turn around and stay at a small town in the middle of nowhere overnight, and the next day get a ride from family back to where I live now. So I didn't get home until like Sunday afternoon, and we usually shoot Sunday afternoon, so by the time we got home it was way too late and we were both exhausted, me and my wife. It was just not a good thing. That raccoon, man.
It was an evil raccoon.
It was an evil raccoon. I never saw it again. I don't know what happened.
Trashlings, dude. Those things are real trashlings.
On God.
Jeez.
Those little rats, dude. I hate them. I hate them. No. But, yeah, I felt horrible.
I killed them. Not just the men, but the women and the children. We're going to go on like a raccoon hunt.
No, dude, I love raccoons. I was really upset that it ran in front of me. It was like tall grass. I couldn't see it. It just sprinted in front of us, and I didn't have time to swerve or brake or anything. I was going 75 because that was the speed limit. It was messed up. Felt really bad.
Yeah.
I hate killing creatures. It was really sad. We honestly, we didn't see it. It went through the car and under, And my parents didn't see it when they came to pick me up. I didn't see it. I really have no idea where its body went.
Yeah.
I think we were dragging it.
They may find it in your car as they're trying to fix it.
No, because I checked under the exterior. Well, like what happened was we hit it, and then I could hear it dragging or something dragging.
Yeah.
Which, upon looking at the vehicle, it was the bottom plastic pieces of the vehicle hanging off. But I thought it was the raccoon's body, dragging, because it's such a low vehicle. And so I was like, okay. And so I pulled over into the grass, stopped, and then reversed, and then pulled out back onto the road. So I think I actually did just take the body and drop it in the grass. And then when I reversed and drove away, it like dispatched it into the grass. And that's why nobody saw it on the road.
Yeah. You gave it a proper burial.
Not really. I'm sure something ate it, like a coyote or something.
Yeah, probably.
Hopefully, or buzzards. There's so many animals out there that can eat it, so thankfully nature will take its course and it won't be in the road, which I'd prefer that, because if you have a buzzard in the road, someone can hit that. If you have a coyote in the road, someone can hit that, and then someone else's car gets destroyed. So I would typically try to move the animal, and I wanted to, but I couldn't find it, so obviously it wasn't in the road. And on our way back, we drove the vehicle on the way back, and a possum ran in front of us.
Jeez.
I almost hit that. I was like,
yeah.
But thankfully I didn't hit the possum. We didn't get a buy one get one free animals that night.
Yeah.
But
Killed 2 animals with 2 cars.
Hank, there he is. Look at that. I think Hank hasn't been in the episodes either. Hey, buddy. Cool. Good job, Hank.
Some good insight.
Get some good insight from Hank here. Hank, have you ever hit an animal in your car? He's backing away slowly. He's turning around and he's going a different direction. Old dog. Old big dog, Hank.
Big old dog.
Big old Hank. But yeah, anyways, the episode was late because of that. I'm sorry. To our 7 subscribers, I'm sorry that we failed you.
We let you down
in that way, and we'll try to be better next time with that. Trent, have you ever killed anything with your car?
One time, I guess I technically didn't hit it, but one time I was driving with my grandparents.
Grandbuddy?
Yep. And we were driving to Dallas, I think, from Lubbock, basically. And if you ever driven from Lubbock to Dallas, then you know that road is like
barren,
dude. And so it was pretty early in the morning, and we hit a deer.
Oh, ooh.
So, and we did not. I think it did actually. Yeah. God. We did not make it to Dallas.
Dude, yeah. If we hit a deer in Janie's car, that would have been so bad.
Toast.
Especially with her windshield's already cracked and stuff.
Yeah.
So like it would have just went through the windshield, and we would have been.
That would have been terrifying.
We'd been fine, I'm sure, but it would have just been like a mess.
I mean, you'd probably be pretty sore, and you may have glass hit you. That would have sucked, dude.
Would have sucked. I think I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, we had my brights on because I was aware of animals, and I was like, I don't want to hit anything. And I saw a deer on the side. I said, oh, there's a deer. And I slowed down a little bit, and then a raccoon ran in front of him.
Oh, that sucks.
So I was like, oh, there's a deer. And then I was looking for deer, not a raccoon. Yeah. And so I was looking higher than I would have been.
Right. Yeah. You didn't even think about hitting a raccoon.
Well, also, like, my truck is big.
Mm.
And so, like, the idea of hitting a raccoon or a possum or something small, like, I don't want to, but, like, it wouldn't be, like, a big deal. It'd be like, no, gung.
And you also have a grill in your truck, so it wouldn't have even been able to touch the radiator.
If I hit a deer, it's going to be fine in my truck. But yeah, moving forward, we're going to be taking the truck to that area. So, never doing that again.
Yeah. Probably a good idea. Worst gas mileage, but at least you don't have to worry about hitting animals.
Yeah. It's more so like we typically aren't driving through that time of night either.
Mm-hmm.
That was a rare occasion where we're trying to do a suicide trip. So if we're ever doing a suicide, we might just take the budget and just throw it out the window and just pay way too much on gas. But yeah, so that's what happened. Animal death, and it was really sad. And I pray about that raccoon every night.
Yeah.
God rest
I'm
the
sure,
raccoon's
I'm
soul.
sure that raccoon made it to heaven. Sure he did.
That trash panda heaven.
Yep.
With that, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. But thank you guys for being patient, and if you listen out to this end, we love you and we appreciate you. And go ahead and leave a comment. Rest in peace, Trash Panda. If you listen this far. With that, thank you guys so much. We love you. Do you have anything, Trent?
No.
All right.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.